Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome again to our Maamer series on Lasi B'Shakela, full devotion. Baruch Hashem, we are doing really well with it. I hope everyone's enjoying. From what I hear from the feedback, they are. And I also know that it's not just the people who are joining me right now, which Baruch Hashem, kol hakavod to every single one of you for getting up early, especially on a Sunday, to join us for a Maamer share, but also we have a whole group of people that watch the recordings on YouTube. So if you're one of those, kol hakavod to you for setting the time to learn Chassidus and connecting with Eibusher in such a way. Okay, so last share we left off. Yeah, there it is. Okay, we left off on chapter 7, if I remember. Yes. We did a whole beautiful introduction about the difference between the animal soul and the godly soul, right? So I wanna touch upon that again, because for many years I would learn my Maamer and say these words: Nefesh Elokis, Nefesh Bahamis, and Nefesh Elokis, Nefesh Bahamis, and it was all, I used to say the terminology, but until I really took the time, I also found a teacher who was able to give a really wonderful explanation, and then I would bring it out with my husband constantly. So until I really took the time to pinpoint what those actually mean in my life, it was an esoteric concept. So that's why in the last class I asked everybody to take a moment, or not a moment, take the whole Shabbos hopefully, to practice saying or thinking and being more conscious about where that voice is coming from. Is this voice coming from my Nefesh Bahamis, or is this voice coming from my Nefesh Elokis? Is this coming from a part of me that wants to do what's right and, connect to the Eibusher? And it doesn't necessarily mean do like the stereotypical checklist. It also could mean like just be a mensch. By you being a mensch, you make a Kiddush Hashem. By you being a mensch, you make a Kiddush Lubavitch. Like, being a mensch is a wonderful, even if you're at work and you're not necessarily, giving tzedakah every 3 sentences that you type up in an email. By you being a mensch while writing your email, you're following a beautiful directive of the Nefesh Elokis. So I wanted everybody to take the time to really think about at what points in their lives the Nefesh Bahamis speaks up, and at what points in their lives the Nefesh Elokis speaks up. So, okay. So I wanted to remind us, the Nefesh Bahamis, a good way of knowing which is which is how it makes you feel at the end of the day. So for example, or not at the end of the day, but at the end of doing that action. So for example, if you need to daven, I know that's it's an easy one, but if you need to daven, right? And at some point, or at that point where you need to daven, you start saying, oh, I'm tired, my head hurts, or, I need to check the news before I daven, like, just in case. I want to make sure that, like, I didn't miss the fact that Mashiach came or something, It was funny today. My husband was checking the weather, to see what was going to happen with the day, and I was like, oh, any news? I didn't mean like the news from the news, but I meant just like my phone is off, so anything I should know about. He goes, don't worry, Mashiach didn't come yet, you would know. So some of us feel like we have to check the news before we daven, or check the news on a constant basis. So at the end of checking the news, how does that make you feel? Do you feel more connected to Hashem? Do you feel more inspired to go and, do your shlichus in the world? Do you feel more, maybe you do, but I feel for most people, it's not, yeah, exactly. For most people, they don't feel so good after checking the news. So checking the news, and also depends when and where and whatever. And I'm not saying you should like live under a rock for the rest of your life, but I'm saying be conscious about the decisions that you're making. So sometimes we feel like we need to check the news and see, what's going on with coronavirus in the world. But at the same time, we have to realize, where's this coming from? Is this coming from a good place, or is it not coming from a good place? Where is it? And the real question to know which is which is, where does it lead you to? By the end of doing that action, Am I in a better place, a more inspired and connected place, or am I in a less inspired and connected place? So too with, and again, I'm not saying the news is bad. It's what it does to you, or what it does, or how it, what's the end result after it. So again, we have to be conscious about who's speaking. And once we know who's speaking, so for example, for me, when I am hungry, I am hangry. When I get very hungry, it's very hard for me to stay. It's a whole physiological thing, blood sugar levels and different things. But in reality, I need to realize that if something, if my nefesh bahamis, or even at some points, my Yetzer Hara is like, oh, I get too lazy to go make myself food or go eat. So then where's this coming from? I have to see the end result. The end result is I get grumpy, and it ain't pretty. So we have to consciously be aware of who's the voice speaking, and then it becomes much easier. Once you know which is the voice that's speaking, it becomes much easier to be able to decipher what the Maamer is saying, and not just that, but get the relevant information on how to deal with that voice, right? So it helps us a lot to be conscious of our voices inside, so to speak. Okay, so we left off with this idea that at the last ice, at the 6th chapter, we spoke about Kabbalah Soul. And the fact is that that's the base of anything. In order to stay from, I don't care how many people, where you grew up or what's your background, even if you didn't necessarily choose it out of like against your background, so to speak, like you grew up with this, to make a conscious decision to maintain that is still a conscious decision. So when I speak about a Bali Tshuva, or Balas Tshuva, it means every single person. So for you to live that life, you have to have the minimum of Kabbalah Soul. You have to realize that the Eibishter is in charge. You have to realize that the Eibishter created you, and the Eibishter gave you a purpose. You have meaning and purpose in this world, and therefore you have something to accomplish. And that means we have to do what the King of all kings it tells us to do. He's the boss. But our Maamer explains very, very clearly that living on the level of Kabbalah Soul for the rest of your life, or living on the level of Kabbalah Soul for a long term, is not enough. It's like driving your car constantly on the empty blinking, on the gas. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't last. It not just not last. It's not the purpose that we were brought here to do. So if you know something in your life, a certain mitzvah or a certain, struggle that you're dealing with, because it's a mitzvah that you you're meant to do, but it's just, you don't like it. It's not exciting. It's hard for you, let's say. So we need to work consciously to learn more about it, to connect more with it, to try and maybe talk it out with a friend or a mashpia and say, I'm really struggling with this. How can I change my mindset, and how can I change my emotions towards it? Because as we said in the Maamer, that the one of the most crucial parts of your Avodas Hashem is to have a loving relationship, not just with Torah, not just with mitzvahs, but with Hashem himself. So the more we learn, as we said, and the basis of a lot of Chassidus is Mayach Shal Tal Alev, that your mind rules the heart, which means the more we think about this, I'll give you a good example. Kanai Nahara, I have 3 boys. And for me, a bris is a very hard thing. And it's really funny how the Eibishter keeps giving me boys. And for me, it's a very hard thing, because I feel like I took this baby, he came out of my womb, I took care of him, and now he's getting a boo-boo, and it hurts me. And before I had Leivik, right the night before, no, after I had Leivik, like the night before the bris, I was just like bawling my eyes out. I'm like, what are you guys doing to my baby? And honestly, the more boys I keep having, I'm not saying it's not hard. It's still hard, and it's still hard to go through that. But at the same time, I've made a conscious effort to learn more about it. And because I learned more about it, I'm able to understand it, and I'm able to have an appreciation for it. it's not perfect, and my avodah still needs to continue, and I need to, relearn that Maamer, and I need to appreciate the whole thing. But I'm just saying it's important that if you're ever struggling with something, to make a conscious effort to really connect to it and bond to it. That way it becomes less of a burden, and the Eibusher is not out to get you. The Eibusher is not out to torture your life. In reality, what we're trying to do is just love what we are meant to do. And it makes our life so much easier. Okay, so now that I gave that long introduction, I just feel like it's very important to really live with this concept in a practical, living Chassidus type of way. Okay, so we left off with, I think I'm just going to start, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to start from the beginning, and then this will make it much easier. Okay, so now we're on page 46. We're going to do this section of the Maamer again, because it really leads into the next part. However, the service of Hashem is not limited to Kabbalah soul alone, since the pasuk, and you shall serve the Lord your God, refers to the service of prayer, of tefillah, davening as well, which involves developing a love for Hashem. So now, for any of us that at some points struggle with davening, because sometimes we mumble jumble, and that's what it sounds like, realize that it's every stage is a wonderful thing, and sometimes we need to mumble jumble. But the essence of davening is to really make that time to think about what we're saying, understand what we're saying, and connect what we're saying. And by connecting to it, we create those emotions. We have an appreciation for Hashem. As the Rambam writes, it is a positive mitzvah to daven, as the pasuk states, and you shall serve the Lord your God. From tradition, we know that this refers to the service of prayer, as the pasuk states, and you shall serve him with all your heart. Regarding this, our sages have said, what is the service of the heart? It is prayer. It's a very famous pasuk that we gets quoted a lot in Chassidus. It is implicit that this includes, in addition to serving Hashem out of awe, also serving him with love, right? So we said that the basis is Kabbalah soul. It's an awe. It's a realization that we have to do what's right, and this is what we were created to do, but we need to build on that with love. This is the concept of prayer, regarding which the Zohar states, there is no worship of Hashem that can be compared to the worship with love. Here they say of, but I like it better with love, right? So the worship of the Eibusher with love. The reason why prayer must involve serving Hashem with love is because, and this is crucial, listen to this, prayer affects both the godly soul and the animal soul, right? So davening, when you daven properly and you really think about what you're saying, or even if you don't really think about what you're saying, but you make a conscious effort to at least have one thought, even if it's just Shema Yisrael, right? Anybody that learned the last Maamer with us, we also learned the Pir Shamil is a beautiful section of davening and Shema. Even if you just take one thing in your davening, that you make a conscious effort to say, stop, I'm going to stop mumbling words and I'm going to think about what I'm saying, that's going to create an effect. It's going to create a change in your nefesh bahamis and your nefesh elokis. Now let's figure out, let's see what that means, okay? The Hebrew word for prayer, tefillah, is related to the word teifel. What does teifel mean? It means to connect. Since through davening, the godly soul is connected with its spiritual source. So through davening, we take our godly soul, which is a piece of Hashem himself, a literal piece of God that's inside of us, and we help it reconnect to its source. We help it to feel a boost. It's kind of like charging it. You plug the phone to the charger, and suddenly it's like, whoa, like when it's about to die, like the light gets a little dim. So our neshama needs that constant, at least daily, or hopefully twice a day at least, replug to plug it back in, and suddenly it gets that energy again. Okay, so not only are we affecting it, the nefesh elokis, because we're reconnecting it to its source. An additional effect of prayer is that it refines the animal soul. It refines the nefesh bahamis and elevates the spiritual sparks within the body and its portion of the world, right? So 1 second. We take a moment and we really think about what we're saying. each one of the brachas, let's say morning brachas, we think, wow, thank you Hashem for helping me sit up straight. That's amazing. How can't you imagine that if you tell your nefesh Bahamas and you say, Nesen Laif Koyach, you give, thank you Hashem for giving someone who's tired, giving them energy, right? This morning I was pretty tired, and I said this bracha, and I'm like, my kids laugh because I try and I motion the bracha, so I'm like, they said Laif Koyach, like I got energy today. Thank you, Eibishter. That doesn't just inspire the heilige nefesh elokis. It doesn't just inspire the godly soul. My animal soul, the animal soul that has energy, also got inspired because I took the time to translate those words that the nefesh elokis so naturally and eloquently understands, because the nefesh elokis of course understands Hebrew, but we have to take the time to translate that word and those words of davening for the nefesh Bahamas to understand. So that's why we have to take a moment and say, what does this actually mean for my nefesh Bahamas? And therefore it refines not just my nefesh Bahamas. My nefesh Bahamas gets excited about godly concepts. My nefesh Bahamas gets excited about learning and davening and all these good things, right? So that we do that through davening and understanding what we're saying and talking to our nefesh Bahamas in our davening. Not only that, but the fact is we're using our body and we're able to refine the sparks within our body. These two effects of prayer are achieved specifically by serving Hashem out of love. Since when one serves out of awe and Kabbalah soul alone, he does not affect change within himself and does not refine the animal soul, right? So we spoke about this and we said, we explained that by forcing ourselves into something, right? I once heard, it's in the Tanya course that we teach, right? Sheish Taub, when he teaches a certain parak in Tanya, he talks about people that are lahavdil, nobody should be this way, but they're like a walking chilul Hashem, because they're forcing themselves to do the right thing, forcing themselves to be a Chassidic Yid and to learn Torah and do mitzvahs, and it's a forceful thing. So they're walking around the entire day as if they're like stretching, and it's painful. It's so hard. It's just such a forceful thing. As opposed to if we do the right thing, we're not stretching and pulling ourselves against ourselves, but we're making a time, we're making a point to appreciate and love our avodas Hashem, to love our relationship, to love our mitzvahs, and to love learning Torah. Okay? By loving, we actually are able to transform ourselves, and we're not walking around in this painful, ouch type of way, showing everybody how painful and ouchy keeping Torah mitzvahs is. Okay? Transformative love. It is clearly evident that there are people who are born with a natural awe of heaven, and with just a little contemplation are capable of stimulating awe within themselves to resist evil and to do good deeds. Nevertheless, even when this conduct is resisting evil and performing good, their conduct in resisting evil and performing good deeds is perfect, their animal soul remains in its original power and strength, and even becomes stronger with the passage of time through frequent use. So wait a minute, what does this mean? There are some of us, and my husband can laugh, because when we first got married, anytime I would drive and I would hear, I've never, Baruch Hashem K'nai Nahara, it should continue to stay that way, but I've never gotten a ticket in my life, ever. I've never gotten stopped by a cop, ever, about anything. So anytime I was driving and I would hear like a siren, I would just flip out. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe it's me. I'm not doing anything wrong. And like, he would always laugh so hard at like how freaked out I was by by the thought of like a cop coming. And it was very funny because when I read this part of the Maamer, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm one of those people that like, I'm very easily freaked out. I'm very easily like scared of authority. I have this like awe and respect for authority, and there is some truth to that. Like, I was always petrified of the principal. Baruch Hashem, I never had to go to the principal, but I was just like petrified of the thought of the principal. So there are people that have this like natural innate like fear of the authority figures or whatever, and so I do drive, Baruch Hashem. I drive a lot. I love driving. But anyway, my point is that some people have this natural fear and appreciation for authority, and and so therefore it's very simple to think, wow, the same way as the cop could come and get me, I could like associate that with Hashem. And it's very easy to have Kabbalah soul in a certain sense. Like, I don't want to do the wrong thing. But furthermore, because serving Hashem out of awe alone does not refine the animal soul, because it doesn't turn over the animal soul, it just locks it up and, like, you know, we shove it. It's kind of like a lot, you know, trauma or certain things, you know, struggles in our lives. Sometimes what do? We shove that trauma, we shove that negative energy, and we lock it up and like make sure to put a bajillion locks and hope it doesn't come out. Is that dealing with it? No. Does that actually take care of it? Not at all. And at some point, chas v'shalom, someone's gonna come, you know, trip over that suitcase of all of our trauma, and we're gonna get our it's gonna open up, all the can of worms is gonna pop out, and we're gonna have to deal with it. So same thing here. By us not dealing with our nefesh bahamis, but not transforming it, by just forcing ourselves against our will to follow Kabbalah soul and just do the right thing just because, it's not enough. And at some point, we're gonna chas v'shalom trip on it, and we're gonna have to deal with it. Okay, furthermore, because serving Hashem out of awe alone does not refine the animal soul, it also does not connect the godly soul to its spiritual source. 1 second. I have to understand this. The way to connect the godly soul to its spiritual source, as we said, it's plugging the phone into the charger, is by fulfilling the will of Hashem. And the will of Hashem is that the godly soul should refine both the body and the animal soul. Whoa, wait a minute. What did we just say? Some of us might think, all I have to do is shove all of that, you know, negative energy or my past or all of my struggles, shove them in that box far away. I just have to do the right thing, force myself to listen to my nefesh elokis, and through doing that, now I'm good. I'm a tzaddik now. But what we're saying here is that the godly soul was brought to this world for a specific reason. What was that specific reason? Not just to sit here and do Torah mitzvahs. It is that too. But the specific reason it was brought here to do was to elevate the animal soul. To get the animal soul, that part of us that's lazy, that part of us that wants to binge on food and binge on social media and binge on Facebook and binge on whatever, that part of us that's childish and gets into petty little arguments with friends and family, that part of us, the godly soul's job is to elevate it. Not just elevate it, but to train it to want to do the right thing. If that part of us that's childish, we raise up that childish side of us and we help it mature. We help it realize that it's better for it to do the right thing as opposed to do the wrong thing. And we transform it to want to do the right thing. By doing that, the godly soul is doing what it was created to do. Okay, so this is huge, and this is avodah. This is something you can take and live with in your life and say, which part of me is acting immature, and how can I teach it? How can my nefesh elokis teach it the right Torah perspective? So, for example, a lot of us are dealing with loneliness or negativity, or we're dealing with, you know, a lot of struggles with this coronavirus, or how much to trust Hashem and how much to trust doctors. All of this, we have to take our nefesh bahamis, our animal soul that is a scared little puppy that just wants to hide under the cover sometimes, and we're so petrified of what's going to happen, and we have to say, what can I teach it from Torah so that it can learn to live in such a way? It can learn to trust Hashem, whether it's learning Shara B'Tachon, and again, you can go on our YouTube channel and listen to all of our shirim up until now, whether it's teaching it, you know, reading positivity bias, whatever it is, learn Tanya, learn more Chassidus. Our job, our nefesh elokis' job, is to transform our nefesh bahamis. Okay, it's not to shove it in a box. In order to accomplish this, the soul descended to the world below. Since the soul itself is not in need of any tikkun, repair, it descends to this physical world only to refine the body and the animal soul. So that the nefesh elokis doesn't need to come here. It has nothing to do here. It is perfectly pristine and godly. It is a piece of God, like literal piece of God. It could have stayed in heaven and been wonderful. Enjoyed, you know, all levels of learning Torah in heaven with the malachim. Beautiful. Why does it get shoved down here? Because it has a mission. It has a shlichus. The shlichus is, I need to make this person. My nefesh elokis came into my body, into my dalet amos, my existence. Why? to transform my nefesh bahamis. That way, Michal, the tired, grumpy, hangry, whatever negative parts of me, learn to love Hashem, and they learn to want to do what's right, right? Okay. Therefore, as long as a person has not refined his animal soul, he has not fulfilled the will of God, and consequently, his godly soul, his nefesh elokis, does not connect to its spiritual source. Only when he serves Hashem out of love and thereby refines his animal soul does he actually connect his godly soul with its spiritual source. This is huge. This gives you what to do with your time. Our coronavirus quarantine that we feel we have the struggle, and a lot of us are facing, whether we're at home with our families and we have to face these skeletons. Many mommies don't realize how much it takes to really, because we're busy and we send our kids to school, and so therefore we don't see them that often. And so some of us hide, from certain aspects of motherhood, whether it's we don't like cooking 24/7, whether it's we give over cleaning things to a cleaning lady, or whether we, certain aspects of the chinuch of our children, we trust it in the educational system, whereas meanwhile we're forced to face this aspect of ourselves that says, in order for me to be a good mom, I have to work on my patience. I have to work on my loving appreciation of the incredible gift that it is that I have children. I have to work on giving them a love for Hashem. They're also primarily ruled by their nefesh bahamis. So the same way as I'm educating and I'm raising my children, I need to raise the inner child inside of me, right? So this is very livable. This is very practical. This is the reason why we get up in the morning and we say, I need to do something with my day. What is my purpose here today? My purpose here today is to get my nefesh bahamis, to refine it, to raise it, to take that childish side of me and teach it to love and appreciate Hashem, and to have that life. Not to stress out and freak out, but to really lift it and live with bitachon and live with all these good things. Anyway, I could rant for forever because this is a very near and dear topic, and this Maamer it could really change your life. But it's 9:33, so higi azman to continue on. So we are on page 50. Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we're going to start from the section called Tough Love. We're going to finish this section. I want to give everyone a heads up that tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, part of chapter 8, we're going to do from this version. If you don't have it, that's totally fine. They're very similar. For this section, I feel like this translation did a bit of a better job, because tomorrow it's going to get a little interesting. We're gonna discuss. We're gonna bring it back, and it's going to get very interesting. So, if you have this version, that's totally fine, and I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow in Mitzvah Hashem.